So I missed the opportunity to check out Sandra Oh's horror Umma when it was in the theaters, but it just arrived on Netflix, at least in the US, so I decided to give it a watch. Should you be adding this one to your list though? A woman and her daughter live a quiet life on an American farm, but when the remains of her estranged mother arrive from Korea, she becomes haunted by the fear of turning into her own mother. Alright, so I've got a couple of munchies to tell you about, so if you want to hear about those, stick around to the end of the video. So we've got Sandra Oh, who lives pretty far out in the middle of nowhere. She's basically off the grid, working her farm with her teenage daughter. Now, she finds out that her mom has died, and then her uncle brought the final items so that this final ritual can be performed and the mom can be laid to rest. Now, the story sets this up to be a family trauma horror, but it's more of a thriller than a horror. And we learn the relationship between Sandra Oh's Amanda and her mom just wasn't the greatest. So there's a lot of trepidation when Amanda's uncle brings this suitcase of stuff to her home. All throughout the movie, we get inklings of fear that Amanda has. Now, there are voiceovers and sounds that feel like memories, and they're a bit vague, but we can see that they're traumatic for Amanda in her rememberings. And I really like what this is attempting to set up. And while I don't think that everybody can relate to actual familial trauma, I do think that everyone at one point has had a less than awesome relationship or an encounter that maybe stuck with them. Sandra Oh convincingly displays anxiety and fear in her performance, and I love the doubt that is created throughout this, where we just can't tell if the terror that she begins to experience is really happening or if it's all in her head. The film tries to set up a creepy or unsettling atmosphere, and sometimes it works. Now, mostly this is when it's night, or there's a lot of darkness and shadow, where Amanda will look down off into a corner or maybe down a path in her trees on the farm, and there's an air of mystery and foreboding that does begin to build. And I found myself really just straining into those shadows to just see if I could see something, and really if there was anything there or not. There are also some subtle special effects that are employed, and I thought they added some wonkiness in a good way to that uneasy atmosphere. Now, a lot of these were effects that were used on Amanda's face, which then tied in nicely to her fears. I enjoyed the parallels between Amanda and her mom with those between Amanda and her daughter Chris. We can begin to piece together some of what caused Amanda to be the way that she is, which then began to foreshadow what could occur with her daughter. But as much as I appreciate what is set up in the film and then what it attempts to portray, the thrills and the chills, they all fall short. I don't feel like I can really connect with Amanda because for so much of this, she's still a stranger. And I don't mind a long introduction for character development, but the story doesn't give us that either. It rushes through the sequences, trying to go from one creepy-ish sequence to another, and the progression of events feel very quick as well. I mean, there are changes within relationships that we see that would be a lot stronger if the development was actually there. Now, there's a bit of lore that we have to buy into for this to really work, especially the thriller aspect of the movie. But the film assumes that we're already bought in, and then it just runs with it. The relationship between Amanda and Chris, I think, is rich for story. They have a different situation than many others, but that difference wasn't exploited or addressed really in effective ways. Now, there are also some side interactions that touch on hurts or awkwardness, but they're like a precursor to a story arc that we never get. Some of the cinematography is good, especially at establishing doubt in what we see. There are also some cool angles that are employed. Now, I didn't necessarily care for them, but they were still effective at creating a bit of unease. The movie's only 83 minutes long, so it doesn't take up a ton of time to watch, but I think this could have benefited from another 10, maybe even 15 minutes to build out the lore of the story more, which would then get me more invested in the potential peril that our characters faced. And so much of this feels almost like it started with wonderful ideas, but never a complete one. And when these are piled in onto each other, the entire thing begins to feel lacking. I wanted so much more from this. I think it has a good concept and a lot of great starting ideas, but they're not fully realized or then backed up with story development or content. So even when we get to the end, pieces feel very convenient and then oddly placed. And time feels indeterminate in the movie, which doesn't help with character actions and transitions. Now, I can't tell if the time between sequences was a couple of hours or even weeks, making some of the decisions extremely rushed and then unearned. So overall, Umma has a decent potential for a family trauma-themed thriller. Sandra Oh gives a good performance as a woman struggling with fear and grief, and when that's combined with cinematography that makes us question what we're seeing, an ominous tone is established. Unfortunately, the story lacks development and depth to create a narrative that is captivating or chilling. The presentation is filled with half-thoughts piled together in an attempt to create something freaky or at least engaging, but it disappoints across the board. At least though this is a very short watch if you decide to put it on, although I'd recommend against it. There's no sex or nudity, some profanity, and some violence. I give Umma 2 out of 5 couches. So is there anything new that you've stumbled upon that's worth checking out? Let me know in the comments below. All right, so I've got 2 new munchies to tell you about. The first is Tostitos Salsa Verde tortilla chips. Now, my wife got a bag at Costco on a whim, and then we promptly devoured the entire bag. So this is what it looks like. Now, they have a tang to them, but also a good spice, and it sticks with you and it builds. Now, it's not overwhelmingly hot or spicy, but I gotta say, for somebody who really, really enjoys spicy food, this one did put a little tang on the back of my mouth, and just, you know what I mean? It builds. So when you eat and eat and eat, you don't want to stop. And we didn't. We ordered a whole bunch more because they were just, the whole bag was gone in a day. And so you can even tell, this is a big bag. But let me see. The sound is terrible. I apologize. So this is what they look like. I know you can't really see. Maybe if I put it next to my face, it'll kind of focus in on there. But it's got it's salty, spicy, tangy, beautifully tasting. Just wonderful. And if you like chips, first off, it's a great munchie. Go. You don't even need salsa with these. Now, I haven't tried them with guac or with another salsa. With another salsa, they might conflict, so I'm kind of hesitant on that. But with guac, I think these would go amazingly also. And I shouldn't have really eaten it while I'm doing this, but it's so good. These are freaking amazing. So go, if you have the opportunity, pick out the Tostitos Salsa Verde chips. Okay, so the next munchie I want to tell you about are these red vine mixed berry twists. Now, I have found that people are either red vines people or Twizzlers people. And we're a red vine family, and those other abominations, they're just not allowed in our house because they are nasty. So let's open this up. I did slice it open just for ease, but I have not tried any of these, unlike the chips, which I said we devoured those. So they're made simple, which means they're made with real sugar. These are naturally flavored with other natural flavors, which is kind of a weird sentence there. But anyway, you can tell that they're an off color. And I think that's partially probably because they're a little bit more that made simple, so they're not filled with all the extra red dyes and stuff. They smell like red vines, regular red vines. So, not berry, which red vines are just red licorice. I don't even know how to describe the taste other than that. But if you know, you know. These, starts off with like a regular red vine taste. Towards the end, has a slight berry tang to it, like just a little sweetness to it. And then it kind of goes back to your regular red vine flavor. And they're not as soft. I literally just opened these right before I started recording. So they're not as soft as like some fresh red vines are. Now, if you prefer your red vines to be a little more crispy and crunchy and you leave them out for a little bit, then these are going to be perfect. Maybe this is just that bag. I don't know how the rest of them are, anyway, you go from there. But the red vine made simple mixed berry twists. If you like red vines, maybe give these a try. I think you can get them probably at pretty much any grocery store, at least in the United States, maybe even online as well. But not bad, not awesome. I don't think I'm going to just supplant all of my red vines with these, but not a bad purchase at all. All right, so that's it for the munchies. When I come across more and that are worthy of attention, I'll let you know. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.